before you had Magic Johnson, you had Black Magic. And he is someone who obviously has been a giant, a physical giant, a spiritual giant, and a hero to many, many people. And he's been focused on this whole question around diabetes in our community and looking for solutions and what I call high-touch solutions. Personally going and making the case to people all across the country, especially African Americans, that diabetes is a quiet killer and that there are things that we can do to make a difference. And so he is here. And we also have Brother Jeff Dachis, who is here, who is an innovator, entrepreneur par excellence, but who from a high-tech point of view has decided to take on the same epidemic of diabetes and has come forward with a new company and new product called One Drop, which is going to give people, which is giving people the ability to self-monitor, not to wait for 3 months and 6 months to try to get an HMO doctor to give them 7 minutes, but to be able to, on a continuous basis, self-monitor and be in a national and a global community of other people who people can each one teach one how to deal with this deadly disease. And so please give him a round of applause for being here as well. So I wanted to start with you. Obviously, when people think about you, they think about you as this physically imposing, athletic, a dynamo, averaging 40 points a game, I think, over the course of your career. I mean, that's what people think of. And yet, somehow, you wind up with this diagnosis. If you could wind up with this diagnosis, that means nobody here is safe. Talk to me about how this thing hit your life and what you decided to do about it.
Well, as an athlete, you're out, you're dining out at those great restaurants like Burger King and McDonald's. And when I first found out I had diabetes, which was in the 90s, and it was like 7 or 8 years after my father had passed away from diabetes, and I thought it was a death sentence for me. And so I had to be educated, and by being educated, finally I went online, and one of the great things about this, the new technology, the fact that we have this internet, is that you're in touch with everything, and you can find out just about everything that you need to know. And I went online and found out all the things about diabetes, and found out that it wasn't a death sentence, that I could live and live a normal life if I was to do a few things to alter my lifestyle. And I did those things. Obviously, I was, pretty much out there, so to speak. Let me say, let me not say this in any kind of derogatory way. When I say out there, I mean, working out, exercising, and things of that nature. But certainly, in terms of the food that I was eating, I had to really maintain a certain type of diet. And diet and exercise, I think, one of the keys to trying to maintain a healthy lifestyle if you have diabetes.
Well, which is a perfect segue to you, Jeff. So first of all, give me a sense of how this hit your life and what you decided to do about it with One Drop.
Well, first off, thanks for having me here, and it's great to meet everybody. My dad had diabetes, type 2 diabetes, for over 40 years, and so I grew up with a parent that was injecting himself with insulin, a couple times a day, and had to be watchful of what he ate. And then 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And I didn't know anything about it, really. And I didn't really know anything about type 2 either. I really just didn't have a good understanding about it. And I too, did some Googling around and tried to find out what was going on, on the internet. And there's a lot of misinformation out there, and there's a lot of politicism in the diabetes community, and there's a lot of disconnectedness around what people think about diabetes and how they approach it. And so,
real quick pause.
Yeah.
Type 1, type 2. What do you mean?
Type 2 diabetes, your body is resistant to the insulin that your pancreas produces. Type 1 diabetes, your pancreas stops producing insulin. So if you had insulin, your body would absorb it and process carbohydrates like every other person. But since your pancreas stops working, type 1 diabetics need to take insulin forever. Type 2 diabetics, their body's producing insulin, but their cells are resistant to absorbing it. And so they have to either take more insulin to make up for the fact that their body's resistant to the insulin their body is producing, or they take oral medications and other things. But it's two distinctly different diseases.
Gotcha. And then you said there's a lot of politicism. What do you mean? I'm a political guy. The Republicans say I'm for type 1 and I'm for type 2. I mean, what do you mean politicism?
That's really the barriers there. I mean, type 1s feel as though the type 2s are a whole different planet. And the type 2s, don't understand why the type 1s are so goofy about it. The type 1s feel like it's a disease that happened to them. They were 2 or 3 years old. It's typically a juvenile diagnosis. They get this disease. They have to go on insulin. They have to go on this regimen, and they need insulin to live. If you don't take insulin, you're going to die slowly. If you take too much insulin, you're going to die instantly. And so that sense of type 1, oh, this happened to me, is different than what the type 1s think happened to the type 2s, which is you're fat, you're lazy, and you don't give a shit about your body.
That does sound like Washington, D.C.
I
feel right at home.
And none of those could be further, that couldn't be further from the truth.
I'm a victim, you're lazy. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. You nailed it.
But you got this diagnosis not as a child.
No, I got it at 47, and so I'm 49 now, and it was a strange diagnosis for somebody my age to get type 1 diabetes, so I've been fortunate enough to figure it out pretty quickly, and I'm super healthy. So
what is the problem that you're trying to solve with One Drop?
So what we want to solve is behavioral change. I don't have a medical solution. I don't have a doctor or pharmaceutical or hospital-based program that's going to help people when they're sick. I want to change behavior to keep you well. I want you to make great choices so that you stay out of the hospital, you stay out of the doctor's office, you consume less pharmaceuticals. I want you to use digital technology to enable you to be well, to make great choices, to stay motivated, empowered, and mindful about living life with diabetes.
So how does the product work?
Today, the product is a mobile application, and it enables you to log what you do, food, insulin, activity, and glucose. And we do some big data magic in the background to provide you with data-driven, actionable insights on what you can do to make better choices. And then we share all of your data, everything that you do, with everybody on the platform. So everybody is sharing all of their information with everybody. And together, we're navigating diabetes.
Wait. So you mean I'm on your platform,
Yep.
and they know that Van Jones ate a cheeseburger and a milkshake? That doesn't sound good.
So they know that a person with the initials VJ ate a cheeseburger and a milkshake. The data is de-identified and anonymized so that you can't track the data back to any one individual. So we are HIPAA compliant in our security. But for the most part, when you sign up for One Drop, you're signing up to navigate diabetes together. You all heard of Waze, that traffic app, right? Well, you contribute your data to Waze so that everybody can get to the airport faster. That's what we do with One Drop. You contribute your data to One Drop so that everybody can navigate a burrito, better.
So you had an example about the burrito,
Yep.
his burrito and your burrito.
Yep.
So just walk through that, and then we'll go the rest of it.
So Earl, he's got some experience. He loves burritos, and he goes to Chipotle or wherever, and he I don't know, you like burritos?
No, but
No, okay. All right. Hypothetically, Earl likes burritos, and he seems to get it right every time. There's carbs in the tortilla, there's carbs in the beans, and there's carbs in the rice. And so he's figured out how to take the right amount of insulin an hour before he eats that burrito so that his blood sugar stays consistent when he eats the burrito, and then an hour later and 2 hours later, and when he goes on living his life. His blood sugar is just consistent because he got the navigation right. I never get a burrito right. I take some insulin, I maybe take too little, I eat the burrito, my blood sugar skyrockets, then I take a lot of insulin to cover for that skyrocketing blood sugar, and my blood sugar plummets, and now I'm having too low of a blood sugar, so I gotta eat a Snickers bar. Then my blood sugar skyrockets again, so then I gotta take more insulin, then I gotta crash again, and I gotta drink some orange juice and a Coca-Cola, and now all of a sudden I'm on this roller coaster of insulin and carbs, and I'm not getting it right, and I'm just not getting it right. If I could see how Earl did it, how he navigated that burrito, or how he eats wedding cake, or how he likes Chinese food or pizza, or all the things that we all like to do, I can avoid making the same mistakes. And that's what a community of crowd care or data-driven crowd care can provide for people. And that's a revolution that we're seeing with these mobile phones, because we can now share all the aspects of our heart rates or our blood sugars or the food we eat or the places we go, and help create an aggregate profile of what the right navigation would be for any given situation.
Well, I am the bridge between what it used to be and what it's going to be. I've been out on the road with a couple pharmaceutical companies, and what I do is I talk about diabetes. Not so much the prevention of diabetes, but how to manage diabetes. We had a program called Diabetes Restaurant Month, where as I went around the country to talk to people about the importance of eating right and knowing that you can still eat great food and still maintain a healthy diet and maintain your diabetes. And what we have here is the fact that now I might not have to go out to talk to all these people about how to manage your food and whatnot. I think the only thing that's different in this is the fact that when you're a different body weight, body style and whatnot, now your insulin is different. And you have to know how to maintain it. Here's a guy who's 250 pounds as opposed to someone who's 150 pounds. There's a way that you have to be able to monitor that and be able to decipher how I'm going to act. When you think in terms of diabetes, you think in terms of here's a disease that's the seventh ranked disease in terms of death. So, it's not something that you could take for granted and whatnot. Of the 30 million people that have diabetes, 21 of them, 21 million are diagnosed, the others are not diagnosed. So diabetes is something that we all might have and not know about it. So it's important that we really understand the symptoms of what diabetes are, and then try and find a solution for it.
Just to be clear, you just said, in case you missed it, you got 300 million Americans, 30 million have diabetes. I'm not good at math, but that's a big percentage.
And 70 million have prediabetes. We have 1 in 3. You might be chiming in. 85% of people over 65 years old, 85% have diabetes. 345 million people worldwide have diabetes. Another 200 million people worldwide have prediabetes. We're going to see 1 in 16 people on the planet having diabetes in the next 10 years. So this is not some foreign thing. This is not some off-the-cuff thing. This is affecting literally every single human being on the planet right now.
You take one disease like this, diabetes, and the system that we have right now for food, which is kind of pumping everybody full of like sugar and corn syrup, and then the pharmaceutical industry, the other industries that's kind of like giving people a bunch of medicine because they ate the food, you now have a bunch of new entrants into the field who want to disrupt all that, and who see in those large numbers very large markets, very large opportunities to make change, but also to make dollars. Now, you are somebody who, with your background, has already proved yourself to be incredibly successful. What do you see beyond your company now, beyond your one product? What do you see out there that's going to be moving the needle coming forward? What are the 2 or 3 big things we should be watching?
If you look at the trends in what's called the quantified self movement.
What's that?
That's where you got all these trackers, Fitbits, or all the kinds of things, even what's happening on the phone or on your Apple Watch or whatever your thing is, all these new trackers. Quantifying all those different data points and storing them somewhere, and then running analysis on huge data sets of people's heart rates, for example, which the Apple Watch now collects my heart rate all the time, can start to provide insights to new types of approaches to helping people make better choices and live healthier lives. And so this idea that we can now quantify our sleep, our food, our heart rates, our blood pressure, our blood sugar, all the things that are associated with ourselves, the quantified self, that's going to alter the face of healthcare. Big data. Big data, in the truest sense of the word, is taking vast sums of structured and unstructured data and analyzing it. That technology we didn't have big data until 2007 or 2008, or at least the ability to look at all that data in ways that would provide insights for people. Mobile computing. I'd say this is the primary driver for healthcare going forward. The mobile phone is powering our ability to connect not only with the cloud, but to connect with each other in ways that we've never seen before. So data-driven self-care or data-driven cloud care is going to start to replace an expensive, bureaucratic, inconvenient healthcare system that has been reaping enormous profits out of what is the inconvenience and inefficiencies of the marketplace today. That mobile phone and big data and the quantified self movement are going to drive efficiencies to the credit to the consumer.
That's a completely different model than the model we have right now, where you have to hopefully your HMO will let you come to stand in the long line for once every three or 4 months.
Yeah. Nothing's going to replace your doctor. So doctors go through a lot of time and energy to gain specific sets of knowledge. And we need doctors occasionally for when we're sick or when we have a broken leg or when we need hip surgery or whatever. But for the day-to-day management of a chronic disease, which is 70% of our healthcare spend today annually is on chronic diseases, for the day-to-day management of chronic disease, this mobile phone and some inexpensive additions to it or connecting with each other is going to begin to replace that expensive healthcare system that serves us so poorly for those day-to-day needs.
Well, but there, from a business point of view, there are two things. One is driving costs down, and the other is capturing value. Mm-hmm. How can people who are not right now not a part of the incumbent, apparently quite monstrous systems, how can they begin to capture value? What are the opportunities that you see for people to get in here and start helping more people, but also making more money?
Well, much like what Earl does in a lot of ways by spreading the word and communicating to people, I think there are huge opportunities in what I'll call physician extenders. So that physician, you're not going to replace the physician. They have a great knowledge base that we need. But that knowledge base is now less patriarchal and less paternal and less siloed, and is now disseminating out into the marketplace. So you could have your x-rays read by a person in the Philippines at a much lower cost than by a radiologist in Boston. You could have standard diagnoses or standard treatment paths for day-to-day activity starting to be delivered by lower cost providers via video conference or text message-based services. And so physician extenders, I think, are where I see a huge opportunity.
Okay. So we're going to take some questions here in a moment. One of the things I think is interesting about entrepreneurship, whether it's social entrepreneurship, like yourself, finding partners, going out there, doing that high-touch work of helping to change people's lives and minds, or regular entrepreneurship, high-tech, is that you're often scratching your own itch, that you have a problem yourself that you're trying to solve for yourself, and because of that, you're super motivated to try to find solutions, to try to find modes of analysis, to try to find good partners, and that seems to me to be a big important part of this. What are some of the other big medical problems that you're seeing in the African American community, for instance, that you think entrepreneurs might be able to get in there and make a difference for?
Well, if you take it in terms of just the diabetes, you think in terms of what diabetes causes, what's the main other directions that you can go into, like hypertension, kidney disease, heart disease, and all these things. Well, obviously, there's going to be more time to diagnose that and how these here glucometers and all these things that we're talking about will be able to monitor those things and then see how those things can be tapped into so that you can avoid them, so that you can at least be able to control that your own destiny, so to speak, in that regard.
It's interesting. You're talking about this revolution happening at the intersection where you have mobile technology, you have big data, you have the quantified self. Both my grandparents are dead and gone now, but when I think about that 85% of senior citizens, aren't we going to need some ambassadors like yourself to go out and encourage adoption of this stuff? I mean, it seems to me that even terms like quantified self make sense for the geek crowd, but may not make sense, in the barbershop.
Well, when you look at just go back with the diabetes, you look at diabetes and you find that the mean age of diabetics is like 54. So obviously, you have 65% of the people over 65 have diabetes. So now you're looking in terms of people who might not be that familiar with a cell phone or other things. So they have to be re-educated in those things. So yeah, there's an opportunity for that type of scenario to go out and try and re-educate those people who have been educated not to deal with these issues.
I say that because it's the people here who know about marketing, who know about how you access some of these communities that may not be in the same line of fire for normal advertising and marketing. Well, we're going to wrap up. I'm going to ask one question of you, and I'm going to brag on you, and then we're going to wrap up. But my question of you is, since you mentioned that you're a capitalist, how do you make money with OneDrop?
Good question. Today, the app is free. It's free for everybody. And the data platform that we're running behind it is powering actionable insights for everybody, and that's free. We're about to manufacture a glucose meter and a set of test strips, and also provide a certified diabetes educator on-call program. And the test strips and the glucometer and the diabetes on-call program are going to be what we charge insurers for, self-insured employers for, or individuals for, and we're going to bring that cost in at less than you'd pay for a copay. So right now, there's so much profit being made in the diabetes industry by keeping information from people and by providing them with crappy gear or crappy supplies at an exorbitant price. We're here to package all that up into a single subscription price and give it all to you at less than a copay. And we think with, let's say, 5 million subscribers at $30 a month, you do the math, it ends up being quite a decent business.
Good. So, and I want to brag on you before I let you guys go. It's easy to have a problem and solve it for yourself and move on. It's something else to have a problem and try to solve it for a community too. And that's what you have done. The reason we wanted to have both of you guys here together is that there are some significant business opportunities as you see these big numbers in communities of color of medical epidemics, whether you're talking about diabetes, hypertension, obesity, you can go down the list. We get hit first and worst on all the bad stuff. Very, very large numbers with people making a ton of money off of it, including the funeral homes. There is a set of entrepreneurs now coming on the scene that have really, really impressive solutions. But our community is unaware of those solutions. And some of those solutions may not be being designed optimally to deal with the Latino community's particular set of questions, or the Native American or the African American female particular set of questions. And so both on the innovation side, we see tremendous opportunity for partnership, and on the marketing side, tremendous opportunity for partnership for entrepreneurs, investors, influencers of color in the medtech space. And that's part of the reason that you are so important to us, is because before we had the smartphones, and before we had the quantified selfies, and before, I'm just joking. Before we had all that kind of stuff, we had great people in our community, we had great leaders in our community, we had great heroes in our community, and you've always been one of them. Thank you for being here, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate it.